Hello, testing. Can you hear, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Hi, Brother Lau and all the Dhamma friends. Today I'm going to present my four assignment questions. The first question is, the Buddha encourages people to follow guidelines, which are blessings. Explain this statement and quote from suttas. So, when we mention about blessings, we will usually think of Mangala Sutta. However, the Buddha did not present blessings mainly as luck, divine favor, or ritual signs. He reframed blessing as a way of living. What truly brings welfare and protection is conduct, character, wise relations, shapes mental discipline and insight. Thus, besides Mangala Sutta, there are other suttas that are also preached by the Buddha as living guidelines. This presentation will center on some related suttas, for example, Kudaka Pata 5 Mangala Sutta, Sutta Nipata 1.8 Karaniya Metta Sutta, Nikaya 31 Sigalo Vada Sutta, Sutta Nipata 1.6 Parabhava Sutta and Sutta Nipata 1.7 Vasala Sutta. Mangala Sutta. The Mangala Sutta serves as a guide for the moral and spiritual progress, for the welfare and happiness of individual, family, and society. The Buddha uttered this sutta in answering a question asked by a deva as to what constitutes a real blessing. There are 38 blessings mentioned, and I will touch on some of them. The first two blessings are non-association with the fools, but association with the wise. Association with the fools will bring downfall, and one will tend to do unwholesome deeds. For example, not keeping precepts properly, not having ethical values, and this will cause disharmony in family and society. On the other hand, association with the wise, that is the Sangha members and the Dhamma friends, will bring us on the right path. For example, keeping precepts, having faith in the triple gems, and putting efforts to eradicate greed, hatred, and delusion. The third blessing in Mangala Sutta is honoring those worthy of respect. For example, Sangha members, friends who are of good ethics and principles. The Buddha had mentioned on this point as a caste system was ingrained in the ancient Indian culture. Buddha emphasis on equality amongst all. Thus, it is not showing respect to someone because of his lineage, position, or power in the society, but because of his virtues, concentration, and wisdom. We could reflect on their good qualities and encourage ourselves to emulate their good practices. The fourth blessing is dwelling in a suitable place, which could help one progress smoothly in the spiritual path. The place should be away from vice, near to monasteries or Buddhist centers for ease of dana offering and connection with the Sangha members and Buddhist friends. Mangala Sutta provides a roadmap for a harmonious family life. Besides the above four blessings, it also mentions on providing care to the parents, spouse, and children, helping the relatives. This helps to build a good relationship within the family members. Other blessings that aid in harmonious living are having pleasant speech, gratitude, restraint, patience, contentment, easily supportable, and having a right livelihood. In terms of spiritual development, Mangala Sutta mentions on listening to Dhamma, meeting the Sangha members, participating in Dhamma discussion, perceiving the Four Noble Truths, walking on the path to liberation, and not to be affected by the eight worldly conditions. He is free from sorrow, stainless, and secure. The Mangala Sutta is recited as a parita, a protective discourse. Its protection is not magical in crude sense, but the protection comes from living according to its principles. A person who lives with wisdom, virtue, and gratitude and mindfulness creates conditions for safety and stability in this life and beyond. The Metta Sutta was taught by the Buddha to a group of bhikkhus who had difficulty to meditate as the spirits in the jungle disturbed them. The Buddha showed them how to develop loving kindness to all beings. Metta Sutta starts by telling how one aims to achieve the state of calm should possess good qualities that are capable, upright, gentle in speech, humble, contented, not burdensome, restrained in senses, prudent, and not arrogant. This is significant because metta is not just a feeling to generate in meditation, but it rests on ethical refinement and self discipline. So, Metta Sutta defines metta as universal and impartial. The famous lines describe radiating kindness towards all beings, whether weak or strong, seen or unseen, near or far, born or seeking birth. This shows that Buddhist loving kindness is not selective. It is boundless goodwill free from narrow preference. That university, that universality is one of the sutta's first meaning. Metta Sutta gives a practical antidote to ill will. The instruction is let none deceive another, let none despise another anywhere, let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. This makes the sutta very important for daily life. It is a medicine for resentment, hostility, and cruelty. In modern terms, it trains the mind away from dehumanizing others. It links meditation, metta links meditation and conduct. The sutta says one should develop the boundless heart while whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, as long as one is awake. So metta is not limited to formal meditation. It becomes a continuous dwelling of mind. This makes the text especially practical. One carries loving kindness into work, family life, conflict, and solitude. It presents metta as protection. Traditionally, the sutta is used as a parita, protective discourse. Its protective power is not only ceremonial. A mind grounded in non-harming goodwill and calm is less likely to create conflict and more likely to meet difficulty with steadiness. In this sense, metta protects oneself from hatred, others from one's harshness, relationship from needless harm. Thus, the Karaniya Metta Sutta is significant because it teaches how to cultivate universal loving kindness as ethical discipline, meditation practice, protection, and support for liberation. It shows that true spiritual strength is expressed through harmlessness, goodwill, humility, and unbounded heart. Sigala Vada Sutta. In the discourse, Sigala is honoring the six directions in the ritual way. The Buddha does not simply reject the act, instead, he reinterprets the six directions as relationships one must care for properly. The directions become is parents and children, south teachers and students, west husband and wife, north friends and companions, below employees and workers or householders and servants, above renunciants, spiritual practitioners, and the householders. This is significant because the Buddha shifts religion from rituals to duty. Real blessings and protection come from how one treats others. Sigalovada Sutta is a practical code for household life. Many suttas emphasize on renunciation, meditation, and liberation directly. Nigga Nikaya 31 is important because it addresses lay life in a structured and realistic way. It teaches how to avoid harmful habits, choose good companions, use wealth wisely, fulfill family duties, maintain trust in relationships, and act with fairness and gratitude. It, re- it presents reciprocal ethics. Each relationship in the sutta is two-sided. Parents have duties to children and children to parents. Teachers have duties to students and students to teachers. Husband and wives have mutual responsibilities. This is important because Buddhist ethics here is not one-way obedience. It is reciprocal care, mutual respect, and balance. This makes the sutta socially wise and enduringly relevant. Sigalavada Sutta connects morality and social harmony. The sutta shows that personal virtue is not private only. Conduct affects family, communities, livelihood, and trust. A society becomes stable when people fulfill their responsibilities with honesty and compassion. Its significance is broader than individual morality. It offers a blueprint for harmonious social life grounded in Dhamma. The Sigalovada Sutta is significant because it's a comprehensive guide to Buddhist lay ethics. It transforms ritual into responsibility and how to protect one's life through wise conduct and shows that family, work, friendship, and spiritual respect are part of the Dhamma practice. Parabhava Sutta. While the Mangala Sutta shows what leads to blessing and welfare, the Parabhava Sutta shows what leads to loss, ruin, and suffering. Its importance lies on the contrast. Its significance can be understood in these ways. It explains downfall as caused by conduct. The Sutta teaches the decline does not happen randomly. It comes from cause and condition, especially unwholesome choices. This deeply Buddhist. One's action, habits, and values shape one's future. It is a warning text for family life. The discourse points to attitudes and behavior that destroy a person's welfare, such as associating with bad companions, despising Dharma, lazy, angry, always neglect the parents, deceit, selfish, having sexual misconduct, and being arrogant and reckless. So the Parabhava Sutta is significant because it identifies the concrete causes of personal and social decline. It teaches the ruin comes from not comes from bad luck, but from unwholesome values, harmful relationship, and careless conduct. This is a negative counterpart to the Mangala Sutta, a guide to what must be avoided if one seeks welfare and progress in the Dhamma. Vasala Sutta. The central message is that a person is not degraded or elevated by birth, caste, or social status, but by conduct, karma, and intentional action. It teaches that one becomes outcast or noble through action, speech, and mental qualities. It is both a moral teaching and a society critic, grounding human dignity in ethical conduct rather than status. Conclusion: as practicing Buddhists, we should be familiarized with the above mentioned suttas so that we could live harmoniously in the society and lead our lives spiritually till we attain our liberation. The reference is here. Okay, any question? Ah, the presentation is being commented by Brother Lau and I edit. So
Okay, sister, one thing,
yeah,
it's very long-winded. So
yeah.
if ever come out, I think you better take step to draw in point form to recall during exam. If not, I don't know how you can remember all the stuff inside. It's not easy to
No
remember all
lah.
the sutta.
But now you got your version not? Maybe we take your shorter version.
You have to do. My student always ask me how to remember so many things. There one Burmese guy, he write in point form law. I don't know how he conceive this idea. So probably you have to target the kind
No,
what inside each
I write
sutta.
long because I don't know how to present you writing the point form.
No,
But in
come
exam
to
then I can
exam.
write
I'm
point
telling you,
form.
come to exam. You recall that sutta. Can you remember all the point? Because he has a
Ah,
formula to recall all the point. So he has no
oh,
problem writing it. So that's why
ah,
you have so many sutta. Can you remember the essential point in each of these sutta? That's you must have a way
ah,
of embed it into your memory. So that's my comment.
okay. Okay. Not all the points are, some of the points are. Okay. Any other anyone got any comment? Then I go to the next. Okay, my next question is explain the grouping of 8 factors in the Noble Eightfold Path into 3 groups with reasons for the order of grouping. So in the introduction, the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha's path to end suffering, consists of 8 factors. To understand and practice them effectively, they are traditionally organized into 3 progressive groups of trainings, tisika: wisdom, panya, virtue, sila, and concentration, samadhi. The presentation will explain this grouping and, most importantly, the logical reasons for this specific sequence. So the 8 factors in the Noble Eightfold Path are right understanding and right view in wisdom, right intention, right understanding or right view and right intention under wisdom, right speech, right action, right livelihood under virtue, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration under the Samadhi group. So the first group is wisdom, panya. Wisdom comes first because it gives direction. So the Majjhima Nikaya 117 Mahachattarisaka Sutta says right understanding is a forerunner of all factors. Without it, morality could be based on rules without understanding. For example, practicing dog asceticism. Concentration could be developed for wrong purposes. For example, aiming for psychic powers. So wisdom provides a correct motivation and perspective, seeing suffering, the cause, and its end, to make ethical conduct meaningful and mental development liberating, not merely mundane. Right understanding and right intention belong to wisdom because they concern understanding and orientation. So the first one is right understanding, samadhi. So right understanding sees the law of karma. Wholesome action brings wholesome result and unwholesome action brings unwholesome result. What is important is that the cetana, the intention, determines the coming effect from the action. Chula Kama Vibhanga Sutta says that all sentient beings are owners of their deeds and heirs to their deeds. These are their womb, their relative, and their refuge. The right understanding sees suffering has causes and liberation is possible. In Satipatthana Sutta, right understanding is described as understanding the 4 noble truths, the teachings leading to spiritual liberation. So second is right intention, sama sankappo. This refers to intention of renunciation, intention of goodwill, and intention of harmlessness. Nekama sankappo, abhyapada sankappo, and avihimsa sankappo. Craving is the cause of suffering. Desire nourishes craving. Detachment from sense gratification is a prerequisite for eradication of craving. Desire is not suppressed by counteraction but tranquilized by correct perspective, that is renunciation. Goodwill is the intention opposing ill will with loving kindness. Intention of harmlessness is intention aroused by compassion. The threefold intentions counteract the unwholesome roots of greed and hatred. So reason for wisdom grouping. Without some degree of wisdom, practice lacks right direction. A person may be disciplined or concentrated, but if their understanding is wrong, the path will not lead to liberation. So wisdom is a first group because it functions like the eyes of the path. Second group is sila. Virtue or ethical conduct comes next because it stabilizes life and relationships. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood are grouped in virtue because they regulate outward behavior. So right speech are abstain from false speech, musavada, slanderous speech, pirisuna vacha, hard speech, parosa vacha, and frivolous speech, sampa palapa. In practice, besides abstaining from false speech, one needs to speak with truthfulness, sincerity, and with good intention. Avoidance of harsh speech and slanderous speech is a positive step towards practice of loving kindness. Avoidance of frivolous speech keeps the mind clear of defilements and prepared for wholesome talk. Right action. Abstain from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Besides non-killing, one should practice loving kindness and compassion towards all beings. Besides non-stealing, one should practice dana. Besides non-sexual misconduct, one should develop contentment, restraint, and respect. Right livelihood, sama ajivo. Right livelihood is earning one's living in a righteous way. For layperson, this means earning wealth by lawful means and avoiding deceit, theft, and violence, not engage in trades of animals, doctoring, slavery, poisons, weapons, and intoxicants. For the recluse, it means the strict observance of the rules and practices of the monastic discipline. The reason for virtue reaping: once one understands the path, one must begin to live accordingly. Virtue purifies bodily and verbal actions. It reduces remorse, conflict, and agitation. If speech and behavior are corrupt, the mind becomes disturbed. Such a mind has difficulty in developing concentration and mindfulness. So virtue is a base for developing concentration, samadhi, and visampanya. Virtue comes after wisdom because one needs the right view to understand why ethical conduct, for example, non-harming, is essential for one's own and others' liberation. Virtue comes before concentration because ethical conduct, sila, is indispensable foundation for samadhi. A mind troubled by guilt, remorse, and conflict from broken precepts cannot become calm or concentrated. As the Buddha taught, for one who is virtuous, there's no regret. So the third group is concentration, samadhi. Concentration comes last because it deepens and completes mental training. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are grouped as samadhi because they train and steady the mind directly. Right effort. Four types of right effort: prevent unarisen, unwholesome state, abandon unarisen, unwholesome state, cultivate unarisen, wholesome state, and maintain and develop arisen, wholesome state. Right mindfulness, samasati. Mindfulness is repeatedly mentioned in the text as a dominant factor pervading all stages of spiritual path to liberation. Right mindfulness is defined in the Satipatthana Sutta as a four foundation of mindfulness, namely of the body, feelings, consciousness, and phenomena. The Buddha says in the same sutta that the four foundation of mindfulness form a way that leads to the attainment of purity, overcoming sorrow and lamentation, to the end of pain and grief, and to the entering upon the right path and realization of Nibbana. So the third from the concentration group is right concentration. Right concentration unifies and steadies the mind. Concentration could be developed in two directions, namely deep concentration at the level of mental absorption based on meditation on appropriate subject with unbroken attention, and reflection on the characteristics of phenomena as to gain insight vipassana. The concentration grouping, uh, the right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration work together in meditation and ongoing mental cultivation. Effort energizes practice, mindfulness monitors and remembers the object, and concentration stabilizes the mind. The grouping is practical. As the effort applies energy, mindfulness keeps awareness pleasant, and concentration gathers the mind. In the three trainings, concentration comes last because it is a most refined and powerful tool which is built upon a stable foundation. A mind already guided by the wisdom and purified by virtue is ready for deep mental cultivation, samadhi. With wisdom as a goal and virtue as a foundation, concentration becomes a direct instrument to realize that wisdom fully. It is a culmination of the path training. So the sequence is panya to sila to samadhi. So wisdom is the eye. One cannot journey without knowing the destination on path. Wisdom provides a correct map and motivation. Virtue is the foundation. Once you have the map, you must clear the ground to walk. Virtue stabilizes conduct, removes remorse, and creates the inner peace necessary for deeper work. Concentration as a fulfillment. With a clear map and clean ground, one can now walk steadily. Concentration harnesses and unifies the mind to penetrate the truth seen initially by wisdom. So the analogy is like learning to play a musical instrument. First, you understand the theory and notes, that's wisdom. Second, you practice basic fingering and skills with discipline, that's virtue. The third, you develop deep focused practice to master a complex piece, that's concentration. You cannot start with concentration first. You must start with the wisdom first. So the working of three trainings as a simile, Wisdom shows the destination. The virtue clears the road. Concentration gives the steady vehicle. Although the factors are grouped as wisdom, ethics, and concentration, they are also lived as mutually supportive, not only in the rigid sequence. For example, some right view must come first, but deeper right view grows through mindfulness and concentration. Better concentration supports clearer wisdom. Better wisdom strengthens ethics. So the order is both progressive and interdependent. In conclusion, the Eightfold Path is grouped into wisdom, virtue, and concentration for logical and practical reasons. The order is progressive. Wisdom provides the direction, virtue builds the necessary foundation, and concentration applies that foundation to achieve the goal. Yet it is also cyclical. As concentration deepens, it matures into a direct first-hand wisdom that then refines virtue. The sequence Panya Sila Samadhi ensures the practitioner builds a correct, stable, and effective path to liberation, not wasting effort on misguided or unstable practices. So this is the reference. Any question? Oh, I forgot to put, I think there's normal AI. Any question? If no, I go to the next. Dana, I go to the next. Okay. The third question is describe 7 factors of enlightenment listed in the Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma. So the Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma comprises 37 qualities that lead to enlightenment. Among them are the 7 factors of enlightenment Satta Bojjhanga, that are mindfulness, investigation of the Dhamma, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. The term Bojjhanga means factors of awakening. These 7 mental qualities, when cultivated, incline the mind towards Nibbana. As the Buddha says in Samyutta Nikaya 46.7, Kutta Gara Sutta, the monk who cultivates the 7 factors of wisdom, slopes to Nibbana, inclines to Nibbana, tends to Nibbana. This presentation will describe the factors, explain their benefits, and how they work together in practice. So these are the 7 factors of enlightenment. So first one is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the instrument most efficacious in self-mastery. Whoever practices it has found the path to deliverance. It is fourfold. Mindfulness consisting in contemplation of the body, kaya nupassana, feeling, vedana nupassana, mind, chitta nupassana, and mental objects, nama nupassana. A man who lacks mindfulness cannot achieve anything worthwhile. When one is not mindful on his intention, he is likely to commit unwholesome actions under the influence of greed, hatred, and delusion. On the other hand, when one is mindful, he is aware of his intention. He will avoid committing bad actions and do good actions instead. Thus, mindfulness is a chief characteristic of all wholesome actions tending to one's own and others' profit. The Buddha's final admonition to his disciples on his deathbed is that transient are all component things. Work out your deliverance with heedfulness. Vaya Dhamma Sankhara Apamadena Sampadeta. Here, Apamada means heedfulness or mindfulness. Thus, it is utmost important that one cultivates mindfulness practice. Second is investigation of the Dhamma. It is a sharp analytical knowledge of understanding the true nature of unconstituted things, animate or inanimate, human or divine. It is seeing things as they really are, seeing things in their proper perspective. It is the analysis of all component things into their fundamental elements right down to their ultimates. Through keen investigation, one understands that all compounded things pass through the inconceivably rapid moments of arising upada, pleasant titi, and ceasing banga. Just as a river in flood sweeps to a climax and fades away, the whole universe is constantly changing, subjected to cause and condition. Systemic reflection, yoniso manasikara, comes naturally through right mindfulness, and it urges one to discriminate, to reason, and investigate. shallow thinking, and systematic investigation. Typo error. Ayoniso manasikara makes men muddle-headed, and then they fail to investigate the nature of things. He who cultivates Dhamma Vichaya, investigation of the Dhamma, focuses his mind on the five aggregates of grasping, the Panchu Padana Kanda, and endeavors to realize the rise and falls of the phenomena. What is impermanent is suffering. What is impermanent? Suffering is void of a permanent and everlasting soul, self, or ego entity. It is the realization of the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is known as vipassana jnana, or penetrative insight, which, like the razor-edged sword, entirely eradicates all latent tendencies, anusaya. The third is energy, viriya. Energy appears as a base of success, a controlling faculty and power. It is also a cetasika and a sixth factor in the Noble Eightfold Path. Energy is an essential ingredient in man's endeavor towards release from the samsaric bondage. The function of energy is fourfold: to eradicate evils that have arisen in the mind, to prevent the arising of unarisen evil, to develop unarising good, and to promote the further growth of good already arisen. The aspirant of enlightenment should possess unflinching energy coupled with fixed determination. Enlightenment and deliverance lie absolutely and entirely in his own hands. The fourth is joy, piti. Joy is a cetasika and is a quality which suffuses both the body and mind. If one lacks the quality of joy, one cannot proceed along the path to enlightenment. He will be indifferent to Dhamma and meditation, thus his spiritual progress will be hindered. No one can bestow on another the gift of happiness or joy. Each one has to build up, build it up by effort, reflection, and meditation. Contentment is a characteristic of the really happy individual. In a man's mind arise conflicts of diverse kinds, and see these conflicts are to be controlled. While still not eliminated, man must give less room to inclinations and longings. In other words, he must cultivate contentment. Real happiness or joy comes not through grasping or clinging to things animate or inanimate, but by giving up the karma. This is a detached attitude towards the world that brings about the true joy. The fifth is tranquility, passaddhi. Tranquility is twofold. Kaya passaddhi is calm of body. Kaya here means all the mental properties rather than the physical body. In other words, calm of the aggregates of feeling, perception, and volition activities, sankhara. Chitta passaddhi is the calm of mind that is the aggregate of consciousness. Passaddhi is compared to the happy experience of a weary walker who sits down under a tree in the shade, or the cooling of a hot place by rain. Hard it is to tranquilize the mind. It trembles and it is unsteady, difficult to guard and hold back. It quivers like a fish taken from its watery home and thrown onto the ground, dry ground. It wanders at will. Such is the nature of the ultra subtle mind. It is systematic reflection, yoniso manasikara, that helps the aspirant for enlightenment to quieten the fickle mind. Unless a man cultivates tranquility of mind, concentration cannot be successfully developed. A tranquilized mind keeps away all superficialities and futilities. The fifth is concentration. Concentration is a controlling faculty and a power. Concentration is an intensification of a mental state present in every consciousness called one-pointedness of mind, a universal mental factor. The one-pointedness unifies the mind and mental factor in the task of cognizing an object. The two features of a concentrated mind are unbroken attentiveness to an object and consequent tranquility of the mental functions. Concentration is a bedrock of the Buddhist meditation practice. There is tranquility meditation and insight meditation. Concentration is essentially one-pointedness on a wholesome object, tending to raise the mind to a higher level, opening an avenue to insightful knowledge leading to the attainment of the noble path consciousness, Sopati, and above. Equanimity. Upekkha literally means looking on, merely, more meaningfully, discerning rightly, or viewing justly. It is the intellectual control emotional feelings which produces a balanced state of mind. It enables one to accept contrasting experiences such as pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow, indignation and appreciation without aversion or attachment, and remain unmoved in the midst of all vicissitudes of life. Equanimity can be viewed from three standpoints: a mental equilibrium, a detached state of mind awareness without attachment or aversion, emotional balance, intellectual control of emotions, and neutrality of mind. Tatra Maja Tata means a mental attitude of balance, detachment, and impartiality. So for equanimity to develop as a factor of enlightenment, there has to be a proper balance among the five spiritual faculties, pancha indriya. Of the five spiritual faculties, the faculties of faith and wisdom are paired together, while effort and concentration are paired together in a reciprocal relationship. There has to be a balance between faith and wisdom, as well as between effort and concentration to facilitate spiritual progress. The faculty of mindfulness, which is a basic condition for the other four factors, acts as a moderator to make sure that each pair maintains the correct balance between them without resorting to either extreme. So there are 7 benefits of cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment. In the Sutta SN 46.3, Sila Sutta, the Buddha describes the 7 benefits of cultivating the 7 factors of enlightenment. One becomes an arahant early in this life itself. If not, one becomes an arahant at the time of death. If one does not become an arahant in this life, having eradicated the first 5 factors of self, identity, view, skeptical doubt, attachment to mere rites and rituals, sensual desire and ill will, and become a non-returner, one will be reborn in one of the 5 Brahma worlds called pure abodes and became an arahant during the first half of the lifespan there. Having born in a pure abode as a non-returner, one will become an arahant during the second half of the lifespan there. That is called upacha parinibbana. Having born in a pure abode as a non-returner, one will become an arahant with effort. That's sasankhara parinibbana. Having born as a pure abode as a non-returner, one become an arahant with no effort. That's called asankhara parinibbana. Having born as in pure abode as a non-returner, one will move upwards in the pure abodes till the akanika pure abode and become an arahant there. That is a Udam Sota Akanika Gami. By cultivating these 7 factors in balance, a practitioner removes the factors and moves towards full liberation. In conclusion, these 7 factors of enlightenment are a core subset of the 37 requisites of enlightenment, bodhipakya Dhamma. They naturally divide into 2 groups: around swing group energy investigation, joy, and the coming group concentration, tranquility, equanimity. Mindfulness serves as a moderating factor that maintains balance between them. When developed in harmony, these 7 factors lead to progressive eradication of factors and ultimately to Nibbana. Thus, they are not mere doctrines but practical qualities to be cultivated in meditation and daily conduct. So the reference is here. Any question?
Very long. Exam, I hope you remember.
No lah, but now doing assignment ma.
Exam come out,
I
you
cut short, I
better
cut short.
remember everything. I don't know how. You better think of a way to remember all.
Not all lah, some. Exam time we got so much time to write so many things. I remember some like that lah. Okay, any question? No, I go to the last. The last is give the meaning for Sakaya Ditti and how it can be related to the concept of anatta. So the presentation addresses the question. First, it explains the meaning of Sakaya Ditti, the wrong view of self-identity. Second, it shows how this wrong view is directly contradicted and uprooted by the correct understanding of anatta. The relationship between the two is not merely theoretical. Seeing anatta is a direct antidote to Sakaya Ditti. The answer will draw from several suttas. There are the suttas to support the explanation. So the definition of Sakaya Ditti. Sakaya literally means existing body. Sa existing kaya body group. But in Buddhist doctrine, it refers specifically to the five aggregates of clinging. Panchupadana Kanda. Ditti means view. Thus, Sakaya Ditti is a view that mistakenly identifies these five aggregates as I, me, or mine. In the Buddhist teaching, clinging to the aggregates, believing them to constitute a permanent and absolute entity like I or me has been described as an illusion which can only result in eventual suffering and continuous existence in the cycle of birth and death. So, Samyutta Nikaya 22.105. The Buddha says, Sakaya are the five grasping aggregates of form, feeling, perception, volitions, and consciousness. The origin of Sakaya Ditti is craving. Craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. Cessation of Sakaya Ditti is cessation of that craving with nothing left. The practice that leads to the cessation of Sakaya Ditti is the Noble Eightfold Path. So it's Samyutta Nikaya 22.47, Samanupasana Sutta. The Buddha explains various ways that one identifies with the five grasping aggregates. First, when one unlearned ordinary person who has not seen the normal ones and is neither skilled nor trained in the teaching of the noble ones, they regard form as self, self as having form in self or self in form. They regard feeling, perception, volitions, consciousness as self, and the same repeat. So in short, the unlearned person perceives self in relation to the aggregate in 20 ways, 4 per aggregate times 5, so 20 types of self-identification view. The learned noble person through wisdom abandons all such perceptions. Second, they do not get rid of self-identification view, they do not get rid of conceit. When they do not get rid of conceit, the five faculties of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body are conceived. The mind, ideas, and elements of ignorance are all present. So the last point, due to ignorance, the unlearned person thinks I am. I will be not, I will have form, I will be formless, I will be percipient, I will not be percipient, I will neither percipient nor non-percipient. On the other hand, a learned noble person gives up on ignorance and gives rise to knowledge. He does not think I am this, I will be not. I will have form, I will be formless, I will be percipient, I will be non-percipient, and I will be neither percipient nor non-percipient. Samyutta Nikaya 41.3 Dutya Isiddhata Sutta. In this sutta, the 10 wrong views are mentioned. The world is eternal, the world is not eternal, the world is finite, the world is not finite. The soul and the body are the same, the soul and body are not the same. One exists after death, one does not exist after death. One both exists and does not exist after death. One neither exists nor does not exist after death. It is stated that various wrong ways and the 62 wrong views described in the Brahmajala Sutta arise due to the presence of Sakaya Ditti, and they do not arise when there's no Sakaya Ditti. All these speculative views arise because one first assumes a self, Sakaya. Without that assumption, such questions like is the world eternal, does the self exist after death simply do not occur. So the relationship of Sakaya Ditti and Anatta. Sakaya Ditti is one of the three factors abandoned at stream entry Sotapatti. Sakaya Ditti keeps the mind tied to clinging and fear. If body is self, aging and sickness threaten me. If feelings are self, pleasure and pain dominate my identity. If thoughts are self, every opinion becomes personal. In consciousness itself, change feels like annihilation. Anatta means not self. It does not simply mean there's nothing at all, but it means not having a permanent entity. It means that no permanent, independent, or unchanging self exists in or beyond the five aggregates. The relationship of Sakayaditi and Anatta is direct. Sakayaditi is mistaken view, this is self. Anatta is a corrective insight, this is not self. Observing anatta through the aggregates. When one examines the five aggregates carefully, one sees they arise due to cause and conditions. They change. They cannot be fully controlled. They are therefore not fit to be regarded as self. No aggregate is permanent, stable, or fully controllable. Therefore, none can be regarded as self. The Buddha repeatedly taught Rupa is not self, Vijnana not self, Sanya is not self, Sankhara is not self, and Vijnana is not self. Because if any of this was self, they would not lead to affliction, and one would command them, let my form be thus, let my form not be thus. However, one cannot do such and command. That's Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. So when the anger arises, with Sakayaditi, the mind says, I'm angry, the anger defines me, I must defend this self. With insight into anatta, the mind sees anger has arisen due to conditions. It is passing a mental state. It is not self, not mine, not what I am. This does not mean denying experience or becoming numb. It means seeing experience as it truly is, conditioned, fitting, and not self. So in conclusion, Sakayaditi is a mistaken identification of the five aggregates of self or belonging to self. Anatta is a liberating insight that these five aggregates are not self because they are impermanent, conditioned, and not under full control. The relationship is direct and therapeutic. Sakayaditi is a disease, anatta is a medicine. By repeatedly observing the aggregates as not self, not mine, not what I am, the practitioner gradually weakens and finally abandons Sakayaditi as stream entry. That's why the Buddha placed the abandonment of Sakayaditi as the first factor to be broken on the path to liberation. These are the references. Any question? If none, that's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.